If I had known that frequent forgetfulness was a warning sign, I wouldn't have waited so long to seek help. Switching regular white salt for pink salt, cutting out refined sugar and replacing it with brown sugar, none of that will help you avoid anything. Because it's not processed foods that cause the early symptoms of dementia. The root cause of this problem is toxins that create a kind of blackout in the brain, which is why people experience that blank, empty feeling. In medicine, we call this the eraser effect. But this effect can be reversed by a simple food you probably already have at home and barely use. Honey. Yes, exactly what you just heard. That's because degenerative diseases have very little to do with age, genetics, or even diet. What actually happens is that over the years, the toxins responsible for this blackout come from external factors, especially pollution. Throughout our lives, we breathe in contaminated air of many different kinds. If you're thinking about factory smoke or those old cars that release that horrible burnt smell when they start up, yes, that's exactly what causes the beginning of these problems. Particles from these toxic gases enter through the respiratory system and spread throughout the body, including the neurons. Once these toxins settle in the brain, they form a kind of dark mass that essentially blackens the brain. That's why memory lapses, mental confusion, and even sudden episodes can occur. Recently, I participated in 2 research studies at the University of Seoul. One of them focused on the difference in cognitive capacity between elderly people who live in large cities and those who lived in rural areas. The results were clear. Older adults who had lived for many years in major urban centers performed significantly worse on memory tests compared to those who lived in the countryside. And here's something even more interesting. The elderly individuals who lived in rural areas also mentioned, coincidentally, that they had eaten homemade honey their entire lives. But it wasn't just any honey. It was black honey from Yunnan, honey from the Asian honeybee. When we studied this honey, we discovered that it absorbs particles from toxic gases. I am a mental health specialist focused on senior care, and I came here to share extremely important information with you. Recently, I treated a 69-year-old woman whose situation had reached a point where her daughter no longer knew what to do. This woman was breaking things inside her home because she believed she was being persecuted, even though the only people living there were herself and her husband. There were also several times when she left the house and got lost in her own neighborhood, forcing neighbors to organize searches to find her. And anyone who has lived through this knows there's much more like that. Before coming to me, her daughter had tried all the conventional treatments everyone knows. Memory exercises, omega-3 supplements, and many other approaches they didn't realize were doing nothing at all. When we performed an MRI, I could clearly see that the mother's brain was completely darkened by toxins. I immediately recommended a recipe using black honey, along with a few other foods that would act as cleaning agents in that case. A few days later, I received a photo of the woman and her daughter. Along with the photo, I received an audio message thanking me for teaching them how to do this and saying their lives had completely changed. Now, you may be wondering how to know if you're in the early stages and need to be concerned. Click Learn More, and I'll leave a presentation available for free for just 72 hours. In this video, you'll learn about this recipe and which foods act like poison for people with Alzheimer's. You'll also learn more about the toxins that erase memories and how to protect yourself from them. Watch it and thank me later.